What can I say? At the start of this docu-soap, I was getting all gushy, loved-up feelings watching the first bit, Harry and Meghan, the love story. It was a subliminal onslaught of digs at just how racist this country is. The one that gave them both their titles and afforded them the platform to systematically slag it off. Yeah, good old soft touch UK.
3 minutes into Harry and Meghan's Netflix epic, and Nana Akua was already out of her chair, calling it a £100 million pity party. The series tees you up with soft-focus romance, then sucker punches Britain as a nest of racists, edits in stock footage from a Harry Potter premiere, and serves it all as gospel truth. Akua says it's not a documentary. It's a drive-by on the monarchy that spits on the late Queen's legacy while cashing in on her crown. Fans say brutal honesty. Critics say weaponized victimhood. Whichever camp you're in, the fallout is volcanic, and the Sussex brand may never look the same once the ash settles.
Having lived in this country for all of, I think it was, 18 months, at our expense, and most of which she spent in a palace or jetting around the world and doing a handful of engagements where she was received by the British public pretty well, Meghan appears to be pointing out that this backlash she is receiving is because of her race.
Nana Akua isn't a fringe YouTuber. She's BBC-trained, ex-Radio 1 extra, and now GB News' straight talk anchor, known for skewering both left and right with equal zeal. On launch night, she watched episodes 1 to 3, rolled her eyes at the slow-mo Montecito kisses, and then opened her show with the line that set Britain ablaze. They softened us up with a Hallmark love story, then served a subliminal onslaught portraying Britain as a racist swamp, paid for by the very taxpayers they're trashing. 3 hits followed in quick succession, systematically slagging off the country that gave them their titles, demanding privacy while filming a 6-hour confessional, betraying the late Queen's legacy for a Netflix check. Twitter exploded. 4 million impressions by dawn. Hashtag Nana was right overtook hashtag Harry and Meghan Netflix. Clips of her rant topped Reddit's r/Yuka politics. Even usually neutral ITV replayed her soundbites on breakfast television. Why did it stick? Authenticity. Akua is herself Black British. Her pushback against Meghan's race framing complicates the Sussex narrative. Timing. Queen Elizabeth II had been gone barely 3 months. Anything perceived as tarnishing her memory was already tinder dry.
Meghan then tastelessly mocks curtsying to our dearly departed Queen.
It was like that. Like, I curtsied as though I was like, pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.
Reach. GB News may be new, but its YouTube uploads average 250K views. This monologue hit 1 million in 12 hours. Within 24 hours, even pro-Sussex columnists were conceding optics looked clumsy. The palace stayed silent, but insiders told the Telegraph staff felt vindicated, hearing a non-tabloid voice call foul. One commentator summed it up. Akua said publicly what palace aides have muttered for months. Netflix's trailer promised the full truth, directly from us. Viewers anticipated raw diary footage, maybe awkward apologies, certainly concrete evidence behind the Oprah bombshells. Instead, episode 1 opens with drone shots of sun-drenched vineyards, Meghan plucking roses, Archie's giggles drifting over a Hans Zimmer-like score. Gorgeous? Absolutely. Documentary? Debatable. Then comes the pivot. Headline clippings about racial hatred, paparazzi montages, somber piano chords. Critics like Akua argue the sequence is manipulative. Win sympathy first, drop the racism hammer second.
I'm black. How can you possibly know how that feels? I can no more know how it feels to be a mixed-race woman that looks practically white than you can to be black. What a ridiculous and frankly insulting thing to say, especially given that she feels she's been treated badly.
The Sussexes recount frantic text exchanges, panicked security calls, mental health spirals, but hard facts, dates, emails, screenshots, mostly absent or blurred out. The doc repeats familiar beats. A senior royal worried about skin tone, palace courtiers leaking, Meghan isolated behind palace gates. Emotionally powerful, yet delivered without new proof. As Akua quipped, 6 episodes, 0 receipts. Even supportive outlets noticed the gap between hype and substance. The Guardian, visually stunning, editorially flimsy. Variety, raises more questions than it answers. YouGov overnight poll, 54% unchanged. 28% less favorable, just 9% more sympathetic. Viewers also clocked the commercial contradiction. The couple denounce press intrusion, while an approved camera crew films Harry texting in Balmoral's hallway. Meghan mocks royal protocols in California sunlight, while her Netflix deal reportedly tops $80 million, unverified. Akua's self-indulgent hit piece line crystallized that dissonance. To skeptics, the series felt less like truth-telling and more like a brand-building infomercial, luxury grievance packaged for global streaming. And that perception, fair or not, is what's fueling the backlash we break down in the next chapters. From the very first minutes, Harry and Meghan pitch race as the prism through which every grievance must be viewed, and that choice becomes the documentary's engine.
Very different to be a minority but not be treated as a minority right off the bat. But obviously now people are very aware of my race because they made it such an issue when I went to the UK. But before that, most people didn't treat me like a Black woman.
We get Meghan recounting in America where, until she met Harry, most people didn't treat me like a Black woman, then a hard pivot to grainy palace, gate footage intended to prove that Britain weaponized her skin color the moment she touched down at Heathrow. Nana Akua calls the sequence emotional bait and switch, and it's easy to see why. The Sussexes splice together headlines from fringe tabloids, racist tweets from anonymous trolls, and archive slave trade paintings completely unrelated to the modern monarchy, then present the montage as a single, seamless threat. For viewers unfamiliar with how British newspapers work, a dozen outlets chasing clicks rather than one coordinated propaganda machine, the cut-and-paste edit plays like a smoking gun. Akua's critique lands here. Context is stripped away, so nuance suffocates. Yes, trolls exist. Yes, xenophobic headlines hurt, but does that prove institutional racism inside the palace? The documentary never pauses to make the distinction. Instead, it folds every slight, press intrusion, stuffy etiquette rules, even Harry's frostier relatives, into a universal charge sheet stamped racism. By the time Meghan mock curtsies to illustrate her culture shock, the point is clear. The monarchy isn't just old-fashioned, it is irredeemably prejudiced. Akua argues the tactic is less revelation and more strategy, an attempt to render all criticism illegitimate. If you doubt the couple's narrative, the film implies, you must be complicit. It's a framing that polarizes instead of persuades, and it's the moment the love story morphs into a courtroom drama where the verdict has already been written. When the Sussexes first hinted that they were leaving Britain to protect their mental health, many sympathized. The idea of newlyweds and, soon, new parents seeking refuge from decades-old tabloid machinery felt relatable, but the Netflix rollout has reversed that goodwill in spectacular fashion. Nana Akua seized on the contradiction like a predator spotting easy prey. You cannot rage against intrusions into your private life while selling a 6-hour highlight reel of every private text you've ever sent, she told her GB News audience, and the line went viral in minutes.
There is, of course, no suggestion that they are trying to deceive us, but surely they could use their own stuff. After all, they did sneak a photographer into the palace.
Critics started stacking receipts. The Sussexes allowed cameras into their Montecito home, a place Harry once called his sanctuary, narrated intimate footage of Archie toddling on the beach, and even showed Meghan weeping in the dark after a transatlantic flight, all after pleading for boundaries in court filings against British newspapers. That cognitive dissonance became Exhibit A for commentators across the political spectrum. Even traditionally liberal columnists, who once applauded the couple's willingness to discuss miscarriage and suicidal ideation, began publishing think pieces with headlines like "Confessional Capitalism Has a Shelf Life" and "When Authenticity Becomes Marketing." Late-night hosts piled on. One joked that Harry and Meghan had taken a vow of selective silence, quiet at funerals, megaphone on launch day. The segment trended at number 3 on YouTube. By the time the second batch of episodes dropped, social media sentiment tracking firm Brandwatch recorded a 42% spike in negative mentions compared with episode 1. That's not simply viewer fatigue, it's collective whiplash from an audience that feels talked at, not talked to. By episode 3, the production shifted gears from racial commentary to a marathon of private texts, never-before-seen photos, and CCTV-style clips clips from inside palace corridors. The couple who sued photographers for drones over Montecito now handed Netflix the very intimacy they'd once called sacred. Harry read aloud a message thread with William, except the camera zoomed in just enough to tantalize, then blurred the crucial lines. Meghan replayed personal voicemails from her father only to sigh, "This was never meant for anyone else." Viewers whiplashed between confessional tears and stage-lit confessionals. Even sympathetic critics began asking whether the Sussexes' demand for privacy had mutated into a more lucrative product, controlled vulnerability. That tension wasn't lost on Nana Akua. She replayed a sequence where Harry laments paparazzi flashes while sitting under a perfectly lit key light. Crew members reflected in the glass behind him. "This isn't exposure," she scoffed. "It's exhibition, with final edit rights." Her commentary cut through the glossier moments, reminding audiences that genuine victimhood rarely arrives wrapped in 4K drones and Dolby Atmos. By morning, the hashtag privacy for profit trended across British timelines, and Netflix's own social channels were flooded with memes comparing Meghan's tearful close-ups to perfectly storyboarded reality television confessionals. The documentary's raw honesty suddenly looked airbrushed, and once viewers suspect a narrative is curated, the emotional contract shatters. If the documentary's race montage sowed doubt, its B-roll all but detonated it.
Her mum then actually spoke. I can see why she'd kept her trap shut all this time. She appeared to confirm that Meghan's treatment was all about race.
I said to her, I remember this very clearly, that this is about race. And Meg said, "Mommy, I don't want to hear that." I said, "Well, you may not want to hear it, but this is what's coming down the pike."
Within hours of the premiere, amateur sleuths on YouTube and TikTok were freeze-framing every paparazzi flash and courtroom steps scrum, matching the clips to their real-world origins, and discovering that many had nothing to do with Harry and Meghan at all. One dramatic shot of photographers swarming a limousine? It came from Michael Cohen's perp walk in New York. Another overhead stampede supposedly chasing Meghan down a London sidewalk? Actually, the 2011 premiere of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Soon, side-by-side comparisons flooded Twitter feeds, each one undercutting the film's claim that the British tabloids hounded the couple uniquely and relentlessly.
Where photographers are surrounding a limousine, taken from archive footage of Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. Even in the teaser, the press shots were actually from a Harry Potter premiere. Before they met,
Nana Akua seized on the discrepancy, dubbing the montage cinematic catfishing and asking a question that resonated far beyond GB News. If the Sussexes' story is so airtight, why embellish it with stock panic? Netflix damage control sources blamed an overeager editor and creative shorthand, but the explanation rang hollow for audiences already wary of selective storytelling. Even supporters cringed. One prominent Sussex fan account admitted the misdated footage was sloppy at best, deceptive at worst. The fallout turned what could have been a conversation about media ethics into a referendum on the couple's credibility. By episode 4, online sentiment trackers showed neutral viewers swinging negative, with hashtag fabricated footage trending above the series title in the UK and Canada. The palace, predictably silent, didn't have to lift a finger. The internet fact-checked the Sussexes in real time, and every viral clip chipped at the documentary's authority. In the court of public opinion, that kind of crowdsourced cross-examination is almost impossible to rebut, and the series never truly recovers from the hit. The backlash wasn't confined to tweets and op-eds, it crept into boardrooms and balance sheets. Within a fortnight of the documentary's debut, 2 high-profile British charities quietly removed Harry's portrait from their annual reports, citing a need to avoid mission drift. Stateside, Spotify executives, already bruised by Archetype's underperformance, "Let's slip that Meghan's follow-up podcast pitch," was paused pending market conditions. Corporate code for "we're not touching that right now." Brand valuation analysts at 2 London agencies clocked a 17% dip in the couple's perceived endorsement power, a metric advertisers use to decide whether a star moves product or repels shoppers. Even Netflix felt the tremor. Early internal data, leaked to The Times, showed strong day-one curiosity but a precipitous episode-to-episode drop-off. Viewers weren't completing the series. They were sampling the controversy, posting their reactions, and closing the app. A streaming executive who spoke off the record summed it up: "You can monetize outrage once. After that, audiences feel emotionally wrung out and move on. Nana Akua seized on those figures during her GB News slot, arguing that the public had reached compassion fatigue. Where Harry and Meghan expected prolonged empathy, they'd found a wall of collective eye roll. And in the entertainment economy, dwindling watch time is the loudest rejection letter of all. Back in Windsor, the palace reaction remained the epitome of restraint. No statements, no counter-interviews, just a brief reminder from courtiers that the focus remains on service. Yet insiders reported that King Charles ordered a full media brief not to retaliate, but to shore up the institution's future messaging around diversity projects spearheaded by William and Catherine. The goal: demonstrate progressive action without acknowledging the documentary at all. Silent jujitsu. Across the Atlantic, the Sussex camp attempted a pivot. Meghan teased a children's cookbook celebrating global heritage. Harry surfaced at a mental health summit in San Diego, and talk of a rumored second memoir went conspicuously cold. Publicists urged them to go quiet, then go positive, but the genie of perceived hypocrisy wouldn't climb back into the bottle. Every new initiative was now filtered through the lens Nana Akua had crystallized. Is this authenticity or another monetized grievance? Meanwhile, producers who once courted the couple for speaking engagements began inserting morality clauses that allow fees to be clawed back if public sentiment nosedives. One LA events manager said bluntly, "Their story is fascinating, but sponsors don't want day-after headlines labeling the keynote tone-deaf." In short, the Sussex brand sits at a crossroads. Keep doubling down on victimhood and risk full market exile, or re-enter the public sphere with humility, receipts, and, crucially, proof they can lift a conversation instead of torching it. From Nana Akua's primetime takedown to plunging completion rates on Netflix, the fallout over Harry and Meghan shows no sign of cooling. The series may have been billed as their truth, but the backlash is everyone else's verdict. And right now, the jury sounds exhausted, if not outright hostile. Did the couple courageously expose palace rot or cash in on curated calamity? Is Nana Akua calling out a double standard or fanning the tabloid flames? You know the drill. Light up the comments with your verdict. Was this documentary a necessary reckoning or a spectacular own goal? Smash the like button if you made it this far. Hit subscribe for the next royal reality check. And stay tuned. In a family built on tradition, the most shocking chapter always seems to be the next one. And that's a wrap. If today's scoop had you raising an eyebrow or two, tap that like button to let us know. Got a hot take or inside tea? Drop it in the comments so the whole crew can weigh in. Not part of the fam yet? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because the next twist is always one upload away.